Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Abdullahi from Bayero University, Kano, a facilitator in charge of use of English 1201/2201 during the 2020/2021 session. I am in charge of Group A1, which comprises the Faculty of Agriculture and Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. This course, Use of English, comprises several modules. Module 1 is termed as vocabulary development, while Module 2 is concerned with basic grammar. Module 3 is on reading comprehension and summary, while Module 4 is on written communication. Module 5 is for spoken English, and lastly, Module 6 will deal with language and style. Thank you. Our topic of today is vocabulary development, and the objective of the course is on the need for and the ways of developing vocabularies. As we all know, vocabularies are essential ingredients for spoken and written communications. Items to be discussed in this module consist of 1. Denotation and connotation, 2. Register and jargons, 3. Antonyms and synonyms, 4. Phrasal verbs, 5. Idioms and or idiomatic expression. Thank you. To become linguistically competent, you must be able not only to understand the literal content of an utterance, but also to make appropriate inferences that captures someone's intended meaning. There are different ways of word meaning. All those differences, consulting dictionary should be the last resort when other avenues fail. One may also consult the dictionary to confirm an already understood word meaning in order to get more information about the specific word. Different ways of understanding meaning include knowing the origin of a word or the etymology of that word will help a reader or a student to enhance or to develop his vocabulary. Majority of English words were borrowed from other Latin, French, Portuguese, Greek, Germanic, and so on, and even Arabic language. There are a lot of words that were borrowed from those languages. Words like chancellor, nation, prayer, judge, army were all borrowed from French language. And majority of words that start with al are from Arabic language, like algorithm, algebra, alkaline, alcohol, and so on and so forth. So knowing the origin of those words will also help someone to develop his own vocabulary. Sound or onomatopic words. The meaning of some word can be derived from the sound produced when pronouncing the word. The sound of the word actually portrays the meaning of the word. Example, the whisper, or the rustling, or the whistling, or tick-tock. That is to say, language is verbal and non-verbal communication. Initially, people use gestures to communicate while they develop to oral. Waving of hand signifies bye-bye, but later the link between the waving of hand and bye-bye is existing. You can know the meaning of a word by understanding the meaning of the roots or the base of the word. A root is a basic word to which affix can be attached. It is called a root because it forms the basis of a new word and cannot be broken down. An example is the word act is a word and a root word as well. The suffix id can be attached to it to form a new word, active. A base, on the other hand, is a word which gives basis to the formation of a new word. It functions as a root but is distinct because the base can be further broken down. Example, act is a root for active, while active is a base for activity. Thus, understanding the root of the base of a verb enhances the understanding of the word. Some examples include the word omnious from omen, which means sign, often negative. There are a lot of these examples. Loan words or borrowing. These are words, as I said, that were borrowed from another language and are used in the new language without changing the form of the word. Example, the word coup d'etat were borrowed from French, like the word restaurant were all from French language into English language. As I said, the word algebra, algorithm were all from Arabic language. So knowing those loan words will also enhance or develop your vocabulary. Another means of vocabulary development is knowing the grammatical category of a word. Knowing the word class helps to understand the meaning of the word. For instance, knowing that a given word is an action word, that is verb, and not a noun, will accelerate the possible understanding of the word meaning. The next item, which is context, that means knowing the environment to which a word is used helps in suggesting the meaning of the word. These environments include the surrounding words, which are words that came before or after a word. The setting where the word is used, such as in the office, in the restaurant, in the bar club, or in a classroom. Example, the word treatment can mean differently based on the context. An attitude toward a person. I want you to think of how you treat a slave, or a guest, or a friend, or a customer. The action of a nurse or doctor to a patient in a hospital. Purifying water. The three different meanings are recognizable when used because of the environment where it is used, topic in which it is used, and the person who used the word treatment. So the word treatment can either be in the hospital, in the classroom, and in some other places. Intuition. Intuition has to do with a native speaker of a language or innate knowledge of his language. Similarly, a competent user of a language has an intuitive knowledge of the language as well. This is achieved through extensive reading and rich exposure to the second language. The dictionary. As I said earlier, the dictionary is the last resort to understanding the meaning of a word. There are different ways, as we discussed, but consulting dictionary should be the last resort when other avenues fail. One may also consult the dictionary to confirm an already understood word meaning in order to get more information about the specific word. The dictionary goes beyond word definition. In teaching vocabulary meaning, it gives other information such as pronunciation, word class style, that is formal or informal, derogatory, and so on and so forth. Its relationship with other words and usage. So consulting dictionary should be the last resort in understanding the word meaning and in enhancing the vocabulary or the word. The second item in this module is denotation and connotation. When we say denotation and connotation, we are referring to a word may have many different meanings. Take for instance, the noun ring, for instance, has such a varied meaning as one, a band wound around a finger, a rubbed up area for boxing, and a telephone call. These are literal, objective, ordinary, dictionary, or logical meaning that a word possesses, which is called denotational meaning. In addition to their denotational meaning, many words have connotational meaning. The connotative meaning are meaning that may be associated with a word by a reader or a listener. They are the subjective, the contextual, the emotional, the personal meaning the word suggests beyond its denotative meaning. For instance, the word goat is a domestic animal, but connotatively means stable. The word home means shelter or house, connotatively means to die. The word heart is an organ inside the body, but it can also refer to as the backbone or a pillar, and so on and so forth. So conversely, meaning can sense or literally, where the meaning of a word is by associating the actual meaning of a given word and extending it by sense to relate it to another experience. This type of meaning is known as connotative. The actual or the denotative meaning of a dog could be extended to some behavior which is similar to the speaker's understanding of the dog's behavior. A person who is virtuously could be called a dog. A thief could be termed as a rat, and a witty person could be called a tortoise. In understanding the two concepts of denotation and connotation, we can highlight the similarities, if any, and the differences in their features. 1. Both the denotative and connotative meaning are types of meaning available to every language. Denotative meaning identifies items in the world. For instance, donkey is an animal with 4 legs, usually used for carrying loads, while connotative meaning is a sense relation to the denotative meaning of a given word by extension. The meaning of a donkey can be extended to a human behavior based on the speaker's knowledge of donkey. To one experience, a workaholic is a donkey, while another experiences a stupid person as a donkey. These experiences are triggered by the speaker's culture. Thirdly, denotative meaning is a stable relationship. Thus, car remains that same item in a real life which has 4 wheels, while connotative meaning is an unstable relationship. Thus, the meaning of a gorilla depends on a given speaker's experience. In denotative meaning is concrete, while in connotative meaning is abstract. In essence, denotative, we can see, feel, touch, or identify items in the world, whereas in connotative, meaning of items cannot be seen, touched, or identified. Instead, we extend the denotative meaning to express our ideas, experiences, events, or emotions. Fifth, in denotative meaning, a word may denote an item or entity with different shades of meaning. Example, the word teacher has different shades of meaning, such as teacher, tutor, facilitator, lecturer, whereas in connotative, we associate meaning with other abstract nature. That is the behavior, the event, the idea, the feeling, which has similar characteristics. Example, woman versus gentle, thief versus dirty, rat versus thief, all versus witchcraft in African association, or wisdom in Western association. It is also important to note that words which have different shades of meaning also bring about the instances of synonyms and sometimes antonyms in a language. When we say synonyms, we are referring to the words that are almost the same in meaning. For instance, the word remedy is a synonym with cure and what? Antidote. But they are slightly different because a remedy may be found for trouble, a cure for disease, and antidote for poison. The other device describes the opposite of some words. This second device features as the antonyms, as the opposite meaning of a word. Usually it goes with a pair of lexical items which are contrary to each other, as in boy and girl, ugly, beautiful, dark, and bright. There are about three types of antonyms. You have the gradable antonyms, the complementary antonyms, and the converse antonyms. When we say gradable antonyms, we are referring to those antonyms that determine rank, order, or magnitude of oppositeness, such as high and low, hot and cold, sweet and bitter, while complementary antonyms express literal relationship using the dash dash either the dash dash or, as in female or male, dead or alive, yes or no. And converse antonyms are the types of antonyms that depict reciprocity in give or take, buy or sell, and then borrow or sell. Thank you. Connotation carries negative and positive meaning. Some synonyms differ in either the negative or the positive implication of a word. A word may be positive to A but negative to B. As in example, childlike is a positive to young children but negative to adults and useful. Statesman is a positive and politician negative based on cultural perception. Liberty is positive to Americans and freedom positive to South Africans but negative to Americans. The next item to be discussed is register and jargons. Jargons have two different meanings. Register, it refers to the technical vocabulary of a profession, trade, or activity. In other words, it is a peculiar lexical items that are used for a particular profession, or a unique word or jargons that are used in people of a particular profession. In a particular use of language relevant to a particular social setting, it is peculiar to determine the degree of formality or otherwise, such as topic, context, purpose, and audience. Registers work like a professional code, thus excluding non-members from their conversation. It makes communication specific, precise, and accurate. It also promotes economy in communication. Register is a professional badge of identification for members who feel an air of authority, prestige, and higher status when using registers in communication. There are different registers ranging from farming to trade, from banking and finance, from agriculture, from literature, from government, and so on and so forth. Let us see some professions and their register. In agriculture, a word like crop rotation means a system of rotating crops on a particular piece of land, while shifting cultivation means a system of moving from one piece of land to another by the farmers. In literature, we have words like tragedy, which is a story or a drama that ends sadly. Example of Chini Achebe's Things Fall Apart. A comedy is a play or a drama that ends happily with the protagonist almost always solve his problem. In politics, we have words like controversy, eloquent, declare, candidate, strategy, and so on and so forth. In the government, we have words like constitution, which refers to the legal document that contains the rules and regulations according to how a country should be governed. A democracy is a government by elected representatives. In banking and finance, we have words like ledger, which is a book of accounts in which a business keeps a record of all money transactions, while collateral is a service to ensure the fulfillment of an agreement. These are some of the words or registers in each and every profession. When the members of that profession are talking, in other words, registers that are technically jargon used by a particular trade profession. Other members who are not members of that particular profession may not necessarily comprehend or understand what they are saying. Why, as we talk of the register, jargon is an obscure and pretentious use of language. It is marked by a roundabout way of expression. It entails the use of long and pompous words which are often unnecessarily and inappropriate. The major aim of the speaker is to impress the audience. Here, communication suffers because words are barriers to understanding. The next items to discuss is phrasal verbs. A phrasal verb is a combination of a verb and particle functioning together as a unit. Typically, phrasal verbs function as a verb in a sentence, except that the addition of a particle makes them to be complex in structure and in meaning. The particle is usually a preposition or an adverb, or a combination of the two, that is the preposition and an adverb. Example: there is a corresponding lexical verb for every phrasal verb, which means the same as the phrasal verbs. Look up is to search or look for. Look down is to lower one's eyes. Look up to is to consider someone as a superior. Look down on is to consider someone as inferior or less important. Phrasal verbs are subdivided into separable and non-separable phrasal verbs. The separable phrasal verbs are those that allow for the insertion of an object between the verb and the particle, while non-separable phrasal verbs are those that do not allow for such insertion. Generally, separable phrasal verbs are transitive in nature. However, not all transitive phrasal verbs are separable. Below are some examples of separable and non-separable phrasal verbs. Break down versus break the topic down. Bring off versus bring your child off. Call off versus call the strike off. Put off versus put the fire off. While non-separable phrasal verbs are those phrasal verbs which cannot take a word insertion between the verbs. Like look for, you cannot say look someone for, but the word look, which is a verb, and the preposition for are always together. Thank you. However, phrasal verbs are also subdivided into idiomatic and non-idiomatic, or literal and non-literal phrasal verbs. The literal phrasal verbs, just as the name implies, denote a literal meaning which are not taken idiomatically, while non-literal phrasal verbs take literal or idiomatic meaning. Example: put out is non-idiomatic phrasal verbs, which means to show, or look up is to search, break away is to separate, while idiomatic phrasal verbs consist of take after, means to resemble, or run across means to meet by chance, or pass away means to die. We should note that some idiomatic phrasal verbs can be idiomatic if another particle is added to it. The last item to discuss is what is called idioms. And idioms or idiomatic expressions are a group of words whose individual meanings are quite different from the meaning of a word or as an expression or as a sentence. In other words, such expressions have special meaning. They have figurative rather than literal or ordinary meaning, and the only way the reader may know them is by learning them. This means that idioms are of fact in nature. This group of words fossilize over the time to form a unit of meaning. Idioms therefore involves a kind of collocation, that is the company a word keeps, where a word in an idiomatic phrase cannot be substituted with another word. Example, he kicked the bucket, not he played the bucket, or he jacked the bucket, but he was dead. To be in the blues is to be depressed. I am completely in the blues, especially since I had the death of the former defense minister. Pizza in one's cup means something fried. I added a pizza in my cup when I bagged a distinguished PhD degree in linguistics. A black sheep is a worthless member of a family or group of people. She is the only black sheep in the class. The rest are all nice and kind. Other examples of idioms are beat around the bush is to avoid talking about what is important. Get your act together is get organized and do something effectively. Good things come to those who wait. It means to have patience. Up in arms is being grumpy or angry about something. More examples consist of idioms like cut corners is doing something in an easily and least expensive manner. Build the ocean means taking up an almost impossible or overly ambitious project. Keep an ear on the ground means staying informed and updated about everything. Eat like a horse signifies eating too excessively. A snowball effect signifies the aspect of momentum in every event and how they build upon each other. Idioms are semantically like a single word but do not function like a word. It does not change or take grammatical features like noun words, take plural forms like car and cars, or a verb take tense forms like cook and cooked. Thus, to kick the bucket cannot be expressed as to kick the bucket. To spill the bean is a wrong form of to spill the beans. More so, idioms do not take comparison or passage. Example, a red herring, not a redder herring. He kicked the bucket, not the bucket was kicked. Take note of all this. This comes to the end of our lecture in Module 1, which is vocabulary development. In this module, we discuss items like 1. The denotation and connotational meaning of a word. We also talk about the synonyms and antonyms of a word. We talk about the register and jargons, and then the issue of phrasal verbs were discussed. We also talk about the idioms or the idiomatic expression. The next topic, which is basic grammar, will also be discussed in our next lecture. Thank you and God bless.